Hello guys and welcome back to Custom Gamer. My name is Daz and this is the show where we talk about level design while playing cool maps. Today we're getting back to Half-Life 2, it's been a while hasn't it? Having a look at a release called Liberation by LifeLost. This is a really cool one to look at because it's an update of a previous release by LifeLost called LifeLost Prison, which was a series of 3 maps which he thought he would never really finish. So he released it on Planet Phillip and got a whole bunch of feedback. I did a video of it even way back when. And it seems like he's incorporated a lot of the feedback he got from myself and all the other people who played the map. And it's a much better release for it, so we can come in here and check it out. So the thing that really stands out for me in this level is that you can see the quality improve as it goes on. It's obvious that the author has learned a lot making this map. And you can really tell because the quality, it starts off good, and it slowly gets better and better and better until you get to the final area of the map, which is just fantastic. I really enjoyed it. But it's really cool seeing the author just improve as a designer as you go through the maps. So this area here is actually fairly similar to the one which shipped in LifeLost Prison about, when was that, like a year and a half ago? Something like that. I'll have to go back and check the dates. But there are some changes. The rocket crate here is now lit up with a light, which is one of the criticisms I levelled at this area. Is that I completely missed this rocket crate on my first time through the map, which makes the fight with the gunship extremely confusing because you've got no way to kill it. But aside from that, this area is actually fairly faithful to the one in LifeLost Prison. It's just got a few kind of visual language improvements, like denoting ammo boxes better and things like that. There's some cool combat with combined soldiers here as well. One thing I will say is that the use of the shotgun soldiers in this map is extremely unforgiving. There's lots of, like, you know, shotgun soldiers hidden at point blank range around 90-degree corners that just kind of take off half your shield as you walk around the corner. That's used quite a lot. But you generally want to take your time going around the maps and make sure you're not being ambushed by a shotgun soldier. It's quite a frequent occurrence. But I'm still not really convinced about this intro here. I mean, mechanically it's fine, there's a fun fight, you get to kill a gunship and a whole bunch of combined soldiers, that's great, but the actual intro itself is extremely weak. You're not really given any long-term goal at all, apart from play my level. Which is a real shame, because about halfway through the map, when you meet up with some NPCs, the story actually gets quite engaging. It's quite fun, well put together, and the NPCs are used well to tell that story. But as it starts here, you're really not given anything at all, which is a shame. I think the intro could have been improved a lot, just by having a small bit of exposition at the start, but you're literally just dropped into the map in a corridor and it's like, just go, play. This gunship fight itself is fairly well put together. There's enough cover to get around the level. The only thing I'm not really sure about is that the rocket ammo cache is so far away from where you spawned the gunship that it feels like you're going too far back in order to get ammo for it. It's kind of artificially inflating the length of the level almost. I'm sure that's not the intent, but that's what it feels like. So I think the ammo crate position could be improved still than it is. It's great that it's picked out in the environment now so you don't miss it, but I think it's just too far away from where you spawn the gunship. If you kind of forget briefly where it is, then it feels very weird going all the way back there. I always forget that this is kind of one of those weird visual language things where the ladder on these like waste bins just really isn't picked out that well, and like in some mods it's a ladder, in some mods it's just a prop and you can't climb it at all. It's one of those things where it's very hazy. I feel like you have to pick it out better, which is why I really like the supply crates hidden in the top there. It kind of gives that impetus to the player, like you probably can climb this ladder because there's stuff on top here. Gives the player a little nudge to try it out. Now, another criticism, a rather large criticism I have of this map pack as a whole actually, is that there's no gravity gun. A little while ago, This really didn't bother me that much. I just accepted that some maps didn't have a gravity gun and some did. But I'm kind of the opinion now that it's an integral part of the Half-Life 2 experience and you really shouldn't be depriving players of that. I see a lot of the mods that kind of say like, oh, you're not playing as Gordon Freeman in this mod, so you don't have a gravity gun. And okay, that's great for story reasons, but you're actually depriving the player of a super valuable input into the world. It's a core pillar of gameplay in the series, and by removing it, you're actually handicapping the player of a lot of potential gameplay and emergent activities. And I really think that as a designer, you really have to take that into consideration. There's so many things you can do with the gravity gun as a player, and everyone will use it differently in their maps, which is great. It gives the player much more of a voice in how they want to play your level, and depriving them of that, I think, is I'm of the opinion now that it's a cardinal sin in Half-Life, basically. I really don't like being without it anymore. That's my little spiel about not having gravity guns in levels. I mean, you could start a level without a gravity gun and then have it given to you at some point during the level. That would work. But yeah, just not having it at all, I really don't like that anymore. It really bothers me. So now we're getting into Nova Prospekt. These levels feel extremely similar to the Nova Prospekt locations in Half-Life 2. I'm not sure whether he just lifted parts of the levels from the Valve map files and then kind of rejigged them, or whether they're just kind of rebuilt but extremely faithful. I'm not sure which way he went with it, but they look great either way. I mean, the lighting's really nice in all the maps. There's nothing that really looked ugly at all. The location is very faithfully recreated, and it's one of my favourite locations from Half-Life 2 actually. I love the prison environment. Just something about it which really clicks with me. Explore around a bit here now. Find some extra supplies by looking around, that's always great. It's really nice to have this little bit of downtime between big fights. Gives the player a chance to recoup a little bit. If it's just constant action all the way through, then it can get very, very tiring. Some maps I see do this, and they just lack the pacing. It's either way too dull all the time, there's not enough action, or there's too much, and it just gets dull either way. So once again, we've got sentry guns taking out antlions, as per Nova Prospekt. Just wouldn't be the same without it. I really like the presentation of the sentry guns here, because as you open the double doors, they start shooting at a couple of antlions coming in below you. So you instantly understand the situation in this area. You've got two enemy sentry guns at the end of the corridor, but they're currently shooting antlions, so you can kind of safely move around. And as a player, you can make the decision of, do I want to take out the sentry guns and then deal with the antlions, or do I just want to leave them down there and just kind of avoid them stealthily and let them take out the antlions for me? I think it's a really cool bit of presentation there. Well, I've decided to knock them all over, so I'm going to have to deal with some antlions on the way out. I like the lighting from the little pillbox here. Kind of really draws your attention to go in there and have a look what's in there. Of course, we find this button which opens the force field to the washroom. Just about every single button in this mod has a camera or, you know, a window in front of it showing you what is activated when you hit the button. That's super important. You never really want to hit a button and then have absolutely no idea what it did. I see this constantly in, you know, maps mods for any game, any series of games ever that have custom maps. You hit a button and it's like, well, what did that do? I have absolutely no idea. It's one of the chief principal ways of getting players confused and lost in your maps. You really want to have a very well-defined cause and effect. Like, I hit a button, something happens that I can see or hear as a player. You never want to just hit a button and then nothing. The LifeLost has a security camera above every button which shows you what happens when you open it. You can normally hear the door opening as well, which is really important. Now we've got another big combat. One thing this mod does really, really well is big combat kind of centerpiece encounters. This is a chief example. It's a little bit cheesy in the way it happens. You walk into the room and then a force field instantly activates behind you, so you're locked in here. I think it would feel more natural if you kind of perhaps fell in from above, because then you're making the choice as a player, right, I'm going to go into this room and there's no way back up. Having it just locked behind you, that feels a little bit like, haha, level designer says no. If you can always make it a player choice to proceed in a one-way situation, then that's always good, I find. Then they don't mind that it's a dangerous situation because they made the choice to proceed. But speaking about this area itself, it's cool because you've got antlions coming in from one end, which kind of distracting the soldiers somewhat. So once you've killed off the initial wave of combined soldiers aiming at you, you can kind of choose how you want to proceed for the second half of the room. You can take out the combined soldiers, or you can kind of leave them to fight the antlions and just kind of kill what you need to on the way through. This is a really cool area. I really like that you can just close the doors here to stop the antlions pursuing you as well. That's really nice. You can do that in a couple of areas. It's very helpful to do so. Grab some supplies. And again, after that big combat area, you've now got a lull, where it's kind of a little bit of, you know, very easy navigation, a little bit of puzzle solving to find out where to go next, but it's very chill for a moment here. And then you've got one of my favourite encounters in the game, which is an encounter with the Antlion Guard in this small enclosed loop. And the thing that makes this really cool is a whole bunch of combined soldiers appear up on the second level, but they don't actually shoot you, they start shooting the antlions. So as a player you have to make the call, like, do you want to shoot the combined soldiers, or do you want to let them help you until the antlion's dead and then take them out afterwards? This incredibly intense encounter with the Antlion Guard, because it's always right on your tail, there's not really enough room to actually get ahead of it very well. So you've got this incredibly tense encounter, and the common soldiers up above just make it even better. This encounter is actually repeated a little later on with even more elements added, so it's absolutely brilliantly well done. I love it. So now, because I didn't take out the combined soldiers at the start, I have to deal with them now, and I've taken a little bit of damage as a result. Yeah, that's a great encounter. Now we can exit the shower room and continue onward. So this area is kind of acts as a little bit of a hub area. You've got all these locked doors and you have to get up to the control room above to open all the doors. We'll get there in a moment. There are currently men we have to fight. But I like that at the start you're the one in peril, so the Combine are closing all the doors and locking you in here, and then when you get up to the control room it's like you're turning the tables, you open all the doors and you can go wherever you want. It's a nice twist. Here's an interesting encounter as well. You see all the Combine soldiers through the window, but you can't shoot through it. You have a little bit of time to plan. And then as soon as all these extra Combine soldiers come up the stairs, they all bum rush you. I thought it was a nice little encounter. Just the simple addition of a window in the side there just makes the encounter play out so much differently, and it's pretty cool. Now we can open up all the doors that were locked before. Now you see this 4-panel contraption quite a lot in prison maps, and I think the way it's presented here is okay. There was something about it where I wasn't really sure if all the buttons were usable until I actually, you know, pressed use on them and moved them around. I think that's mainly because, again, there's so many Half-Life 2 maps that use that panel, and they're all generally a little bit different, so the visual language is a bit muddy in my head. But I think LifeLost does a good job here with the red and green lights to actually show that all the panels are functional and you should try them all. I see a lot of maps where, like, they use the 4-panel model and all 4 panels are usable, but they don't show that to you anyway, so you end up just hitting one, and then the map feels broken because you haven't tried any of the others. There's just nothing telling you that they're all usable. This is where it's really important just to communicate, you know, if something's usable in the level, you need to show that to the player with visuals. It's something, if you look across Half-Life 2 as a game, like anything that's usable has the same visual language every single time. Like if it's a button or some kind of lever or contraption, it works the same way whenever you see it. And the only reason I'm having trouble with it in custom maps is because a lot of authors do things differently to the way Half-Life 2 does it. So it gets a bit muddy after a while. We've got another control room here to get into, and again we've got another button with another camera above it so you can see exactly what's going to happen when you press it. Recharge a little bit first. We've turned off the force fields. You can actually hear them turn off as well, so if you're listening you can tell which direction to walk in to head to that door. I think a possible problem here is that there's a lot of these kind of gated doors that you're kind of turning on and off with panels, and they all kind of look very similar. I think a way to get around that is perhaps have some kind of unique prop by the door, like even if it's just like a, you know, a pipe with a bit of steam coming out of it, or some kind of unique visual element next to the door, so that as a player you can say, okay, it's that door with the pipe, or it's that door with the, you know, crates next to it, whatever it is. As it stands right now, a lot of these doors are just kind of, okay, I walked past a lot of doors that look exactly like that. Which one is it exactly that I've opened? I mean, perhaps other people didn't have any problem at all, but you can see here, like, all these doors look the same generally. You can see part of the level ahead there, and then when you come back round here from the other side you can open that door as a shortcut back if you need it. I like that a lot. There's something LifeLost does a couple of times during this map actually. If you missed any supplies you have a quick way going back there. And once again here we've got a location which feels lifted from Half-Life 2 again. This underground kind of dark area. I believe it was filled with, was it antlions and combine soldiers in Half-Life 2? Or Nova Prospekt, I can't remember. But it's kind of rejigged here. You've got some zombines and other things. Again here, it's a nice change in pace between just fighting combine soldiers or antlions. So now you've got a kind of zombie infested area. I mean, yes, you're fighting enemies, but, you know, the tone is different because they're zombies. You have to approach them differently. In fact, generally, I'd say the pacing of this map is actually very good. Now, you've got some nice lulls between each bit of action. A nice variation in enemy types throughout the entire map. It constantly keeps getting, you know, more and more and more. And it's very, very well done. I don't know why I'm using these flares, it feels completely useless, but it's just kind of funny to set stuff on fire. It's kind of interesting, and like using the rocket launcher here or anywhere during the maps is kind of interesting because you're given it right at the beginning to kill the gunship. But then you're not given any more ammo for it until the very end of the map. So you've got 3 rockets that are just kind of, you can use kind of at your leisure kind of make any encounter slightly easier, so I decided to use one there to thin out the flock of zombines. I think that's really interesting. You see this in other games as well, like things like Quake, where you're given a lightning gun at the very beginning of a map, but ammo is either extremely rationed out or only in secret areas. So I think the same principle can work in Half-Life maps as well, where perhaps you're given a rocket launcher or a crossbow at the very beginning with very limited ammo, so it's kind of up to the player when they want to use it to make a situation easier for them. I think that's cool. As a level design, you just have to kind of treat that as a gift to the player, though. You can't really design an encounter around it because you never know when the player is going to use all their rockets or crossbow bolts or whatever you've given them. So you should never be like designing encounters like they should use a rocket here, otherwise they're going to die. It should just be like a bonus that's completely up to the player when they want to use. Alright, so that was part 1 of Liberation by LifeLost. Going to cut the video here and do a two-parter, as it's a really interesting map to look at. I'm going to take the time and do a two-part vid for it. So part 2 should be out fairly shortly, hopefully by the end of the weekend, perhaps Monday, Tuesday next week-ish. And we'll have a look at how this puzzle works, because it's very, very cool. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Thank you for watching. And I will see you next time.